Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reach Out podcast. This is your host, Juan Pablo Orques, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in once again, for working on your professional development journey, and for allowing me to assist you in this journey. I'm truly, truly grateful. Very happy to be here again. As always, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Reach Out Podcast, on TikTok at The Reach Out Podcast, and also feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. With that said, I got to be honest, today's one of those very important episodes in the Reach Out podcast. This is one of those conversations in which you'll get to learn from a true role model and a real life example of success. We are joined by the great Sheila Morales. Sheila, welcome to the Reach Out podcast. And how are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm very glad that you're here as well. Again, thank you for joining us. Today, we are discussing a very, very important topic, especially for my crowd, the young professionals, college students, and recent graduates. Um, and that topic is how to build those skills that will get you hired, right? So, Shayla, I think this is something really important, especially this time of year. As I said previously, we were talking off camera. I'm about to graduate on May if God is with me. and this is something that I've been asking all of my mentors, all of my peers that have already graduated, just what are those things that have worked for them, and that worked for them in the process when they were job hunting. Because one of the values that to me I try to employ in this podcast and I try to remind my crowd is that it's not just about any job, it's about finding the right job for you, right? So, Shayla, can you briefly share where you're from, where you studied, and what are you working on right now?
Sure. So, my name is Sheila Morales. Um, I went to school in Daytona Beach, Florida, in a school very focused for aeronautical. It's called Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. As I was mentioning, it's a very focused school because you either go there to be a pilot or you go there to be an astronaut. Those were the two top career goals there. Um, so I have been working as of January 25th. I have been working in this industry for 17 years. I work for Boeing Defense and Space. One of my primary projects is the supporting my client, which is NASA, and the Space Launch System, the International Space Station. We work with a variety of different projects. So, and as part of my job, it is recruiting. And right now we are gearing up for the internship, the summer internship.
Right.
So,
I think that I mean we met at that Mind Project event that was with the Houston Millennial Organization as well. Was it last month? I think it was last month.
I think it was in January. Wait,
Yeah.
what month are we? Yeah.
it was last month. It was definitely like early January.
Yeah.
And I remember I was there. Shout out to my project and shout out Houston Millennials, by the way. I was there to assist with like the Mind Project, like intern team, just helping organize the tables and whatnot. And when you came in, I remember that it was so funny because you got in exactly at the moment that you were called in to speak in front of the big audience. Like I remember seeing you walk through the doors, and you couldn't even stop to say hi. You just like
Straight
walked
to the
directly
stage.
to the stage, and that to me is very admirable because like usually like at least I need a little bit of like mental preparation to start like recording, start talking to the camera. But just seeing you just walk straight from the door to the parking lot to the stage, that was really cool. So once you got off the station, I was thinking about the things that you were saying about your trajectory and the things that are necessary and the things that have granted you success. Um, and that's when we engage in a conversation of mostly recruiting, and the things that we both have seen, me from the side of the student and the job applicant, and you from the side of the professional representing the company and interviewer, right? So bring us back and tell us, how did you got to Boeing? Bring us back to that moment where you started to see it as a real possibility, like, oh, this is happening, and what was the process like, and the path that ultimately led you to that job offer.
Yeah, so it was very like my senior year was very like I was telling you, like how do you feel like, because during my senior year I still remember feeling like very overwhelmed. I
Hmm.
think that would be the best description, because not only we had to focus on our senior design, our studies and all that, but also focusing on job applications and where am I going to live, where in the US am I moving to. Like it was a lot. um so I remember as I graduated in December of 2007, sorry. And then in October, there was a career fair in our school. There were over 100 companies that came, and then they tell you, have a resume set up and like have some conversations with the companies. So I remember everybody wanted like Boeing and like Lockheed Martin and like Northrop Grumman. And I'm like, that your competition. You've been studying with them for the past few years in the university. So I remember keep thinking like, how do I stand out from the rest?
Mm.
What do I have to offer that is different from the rest? You have peers that have been studying the same thing, that are in the same position as you, looking for jobs. So you have to think about what is that thing that you have that you can offer to them, that is individually to you, that is unique to you. And I think I focused that. And you give the interviews, and then they give you, sorry, you give the resumes, and then not everybody gets an interview, so they kind of meet you really quick, so you have to make an impression really fast
Hmm.
in the career fair. So I remember that, and then I went straight for it. I'm like, this, I'm gonna shoot my shot. I'm like, so I must have said something, and I did get called for an interview. And not only did I get called in an interview, at the end of it, they offered me a job in October before I graduated.
Like, oh my God. I cannot imagine how happy you felt when you
A
got that.
relief.
Yeah, a relief. That's the right word.
Yeah, they offered me a job in multiple areas.
Yeah.
So I had to choose. They were like, "Oh, if you don't like Washington Rainy, we also have some in California. Like, we really want you. What do you want?" So it was like
Wow.
very, I don't know. It made me feel good. Like, all this 4.5 years of studying really
Hmm.
hard and working have finally paid off.
Of course. It makes me feel like very happy because often when we're in that like position of interviewing for jobs and we're the students, right? Uh, I see that, just based on my experiences and my peers, that we often forget like how to enjoy that process because like if you do it right, it's an enjoyable process to go to the career fairs and talking to the recruiters. And it just brings me back to one of the conversations that I had with Byron King. Byron King was one of the first like three guests that I had in the podcast. And before that, before I even like gathered my idea of doing a podcast, I was also like having constant calls with him because he used to work at Schlumberger in a company that I wanted to work for, and then I worked for him. And I remember he told me like one of the best advices that I'm gonna take it to the grave because he told me like, recruiters in a way they just want to be entertained, you know, and that goes like in addition of obviously finding the right candidate and making sure that the needs of the company and for the role, like specifically, they are met. However, I feel like a big mistake that a lot of like students do is just robotize the concept of a recruiter. You know, like they just be just talking, and expecting just a question so they can uh, say the answer that they prepared for hours and hours. And that is such a mistake and such a misconception.
Yep, I think you're spot on. I think I've done maybe over 200 interviews by now. So
Wow.
I'm like, um, so it's like, so yes, you have to prepare, because I think it's good that you
Mm.
have your thoughts organized, you prepare for some questions, but at the same time, we're going to be hearing a lot of the same. It's
Mhm.
like, so again, how do you stand out from the rest? Like, you have to put in a little bit of something that we're not going to be used to hearing, right? So I like the word that you said, entertain, because it's like, okay, so how do I keep my attention on this person? You have to be able to grab their attention and make sure they want to know more and want
Mm.
to, like, keep you engaged and all that kind of stuff. So I think that would be a good advice.
When you say like this 200 interviews is a lot.
I know.
It's a lot. And obviously, without mentioning any names, is there an interview that you recall right off the top of your head that say like, this is a great interview, like a differentiator?
Yes, actually, without saying any names, ultimately he didn't end up taking the
Oh.
position. So I was really hurt because I feel that that person just not he answered everything, but at the same times, like when we asked him, like, what do you want to know about you and all that kind of things, it's like he was very confident.
Hmm.
He knew what he wanted to do. He knew what he was doing. He knew what the position required and all of that. And it showed, like, I couldn't even see that other person. Like sometimes we have the cameras, it is optional. We always recommend having it. He didn't even have the camera on. And I
Wow.
could, yeah. And you can hear this how strong his conviction was towards the job and what he wanted and all of that. And I'm like, I that is exactly what I'm looking for.
Right. That is really interesting. And I would have never guessed that he did not have his camera on. Honestly, that is wild. And because I remember on our first conversation, we were talking a lot about, again, like the robotic side of like having every answer prepared, you know? Because at the end of the day, when you have this interviews for a job, there are questions that you need to ask as part of the routine. However, if everything becomes a routine, then you leave the interview without knowing, is this person really going to fit our working style?
Correct. And then you have to think of also like we get thousands of
Mm-hmm.
applications. So we don't go through all of those resumes. There is a system that does that. So you already made it
Mm-hmm.
once you pass through the system. After that, it's like it's up to you. Like we already know your resume, we already know your school, your what you did and all of that. So what's outside the resume that we don't know about you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what the interview comes, to be like getting to know you. And also a big advice, do not lie in your interview. Almost all the time like I've been able to
Catch
catch the
it.
not the it's like because I want to know specifically. It's like, okay, you did this project and your the involvement, the person keeps saying, well, we did this, we did that.
Mm,
It's like a lot of we. So and I would stop them and say, what did you do? What was your
mm,
specific contribution? And if they're not able to tell me their specific contribution, then like, okay, were you lying about everything that you did, or is it this?
exactly.
So like we want to know about you specifically, not like, yes, it's a we want to know that you can work in a team, but also this is an interview for your position. So I think that's
Totally.
important.
Shayla, if there's something that I learned from doing my research for this episode, is that your drive, your vision, and determination have shaped your success. So, what key skills or mindset shifts do you think young professionals need to develop to stay competitive?
You know, I always say that I'm determined. My family says that I'm stubborn. And I'm like, well, you have to be a little bit, I
Yeah.
guess, because just the other day I posted this magazine where I was featured in my first year of college. And I said the same thing that I'm telling you today. And that was 22 years ago.
Mm,
So it's like, is that stubbornness or is that being determined?
yeah.
So I I am very driven. I know what I want, and I rarely deviate from what I want in life. So,
Mhm.
um, so it's like one of those things that is like, just you know who you are, and despite what people may think, calling you stubborn or this or that, it's like just do whatever you have to do to get what what your goals are, what your dreams are, because I mean, these are your dreams. You only have one shot at it
Right.
all life. So,
I think that is really interesting, and that's something that you mentioned. And one of the news reports that they did on you in Nicaragua. If you guys haven't seen this, please look up Sheila Morales, because there's going to be a handful of like news outlets from Nicaragua, and they all love Sheila. Like they love Sheila.
thank you.
Yeah, and you mentioned how like it's exactly what you mentioned is like vision of your dreams and keep focusing on it. Keep focusing on it. Obviously, your your story is just so inspiring because since you were 6 years old, you knew that you want to be an astronaut, you know?
You done your
Yeah. 6 years old. And like obviously your childhood and like your school years were so um like so important when it came to differentiating yourself. So I wanna ask you about this thing that I read about you where I think it was around your last year of high school, and it was a specific project that you did, and it really got the attention of people in like just companies like NASA and Boeing. And how did that impact your career trajectory?
Are you talking about high school or college?
I think it was high school,
My senior year in high
but
school.
it may be college. I may be wrong. I remember you mentioned like your last year
Yeah,
and
in
how it
school.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mix up school, university all the time. So that might have been my mistake, and especially in Spanish. um, so in my last year of university, we are all like all the seniors are to make this big project. And um, I got involved in it since my junior year because it's a lot. It's a lot to learn. And it is part of the Society of Automotive Engineers. I
Mm.
know, completely different from the aerospace and the
Yeah.
space stuff that is my career.
Very different.
But the reason I chose this is because I wanted to build it with my hands.
Mm.
It was a very hands-on project, and I wanted that experience. All the other projects were very theoretical, but I actually wanted to work on something, and this was the opportunity to do that. So the reason why this got the attention of all these companies is because so we won number one in the US.
Yes.
We competed against Yale and Dartmouth, Notre Dame,
Lovely.
like all these other top schools, and we got number one in the nation. And it was when we were done and we got that award, I just felt like I'm done. I'm like, I think I love doing the hands-on stuff, but I think it was a good experience that I did it because I thought after that I was just like, this is a lot. This
Mhm.
was not only did we have to do all the analysis up front, we actually then had to build it and then compete in it. So it was like a
Jesus.
lot, building on to that. And it was something I had never done that before. So one of the things I don't know if you saw is that I like to put my challenges very high up there.
Mhm.
And the reason is that because like you don't know how much you're capable of until you put those goals up there. And this was one of those times that it was like I never expected the outcome of this, and it felt fulfilling and recognized to do that.
That is insane. I mean, number one in the
Number one in
nation,
the nation.
and against all these Ivy League
Ivy League schools.
schools.
Correct.
I feel like that is just from like reading your story. That is just one one accomplishment among hundreds, you know. And I feel like you're one of those persons that I love to have in the program because you highlight the right things about success, which is the hard work and the determination, you
Yes.
know, not cutting corners, doing the things like day in and day out. Because there's one saying that I really like is hard work works, you know? And I think Kendra Scott was the one that said that. But that's what I'm saying. Like remembering those elements is something that you see it work, especially like in your example of the project in your last year of college. Just like that, you get like similar results when it comes like you applying that same effort in anything in your life, you
That's
know,
correct.
making time for it. So, Shayla, I want to tell you again that I watched this news report that they did of you in Nicaragua,
Mhm.
and you gave a message that I want to highlight today, and that is education by the hand of perseverance is the key to success and goal accomplishing. Tell us more about what this means.
Yes. I said that because I feel that a lot of people, they're like, I want to do this. I want to do that. They get these big goals in their head, but they don't have any tangible actions.
Mm.
Like, you don't have a plan. So it's good to have goals. It's good to have perseverance and all that, but you have to be able to put it together so that you create a sort of plan to get to your goals. So, a lot of people are dreamers. They all dream of having money, they all dream of being, pilots or doctors and all that kind of things. But then I always ask them, so what are you doing about it?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing to get there? And they're like, well, they're working the same 9 to 5 job from, day to night. And then it's like, are you studying? Are you going out of your way to learn new skills? And they're like, no, not yet, because I don't have the time. So it's always some sort of excuse. I always tell them, just stop making excuses.
Right.
You have to do what you need to do. Even if it's something small, it will help you one step like at a time to get there. And by the time you notice that, you're already at your goal.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be big goals. Like it can be like small goals at a time. If you don't have a lot of time, that is, so try to focus on the small things, because in life we do go through distractions.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that I said. It's like, I'm not gonna say that I never got distracted or like almost deviated from that. It happens. It's life. We don't live in a linear life. Our life is full of ups and downs, and that's normal. But that's where the plan comes in. It's like, where you were at, where you need to go. So you kind of, it's like, okay, what next do I need to do? And the smaller the goals that you have for yourself, the easier it is to get back on that.
I like that approach because I think you're so right. So easy to get distracted and so easy to romanticize success in the sense that with social media, you see all these people like highlighting uh, this amount of money and like this apartment, this house, this car, and the people see that as like, oh, I'm gonna have that because I can and it's whatever, and because I just say so, and that's it, you know. But whenever you don't do that analysis in your head, say like, let me write it down, let me set like a system, then it's not gonna work. And I feel like there's a very popular book that I read a couple of years ago that was Atomic Habits, and it's all about that. It's all about like creating systems, getting those small goals in track for the daily measures and the weekly measures. And I took this marketing class at Bauer, and Professor Koch, he said another saying that I always remember when I'm getting distracted and I don't see myself accomplishing the things that I said I was going to accomplish. And he always says, what doesn't get measured doesn't get managed, you know? So the day that he said that, I went out of school and I bought a calendar and I just put every single thing. And more so, I try to measure like my headspace and like the way I felt. So if you look at my calendar, uh, it's just like a bunch of numbers. And the reason why that is because I don't say like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is how did I feel today from 1 to 10, and that's a number. And then every single day is like a different number. So when the month ends, I can see like take an average and be like, because of this, I remember this happening this day. I didn't feel good, so I need to take care of that for this upcoming month. What are the things that uplift me and make my day much better than the day before? You know, and that is all the little things that are honestly like not difficult to do, but it's just a matter of, again, what you said, Sheila, just doing them.
And I also would like to add, during those little tasks, I realized that I'm not so good at some of the things
Mm.
and I'm good at these other things, which is, again, something that we all will encounter in life. So you get to learn a lot about yourself in the process. And it's like, okay, you know what you need to focus. It's like, okay, I'm not good at this. I'm going to allocate a little bit of more of your time towards that. And
Mm-hmm.
what you're good at, it's like, you're good at it. So it's like, let's try to make a balance so that you have a good,
Exactly.
so that,
The 80/20,
yep.
the 80/20. And I'm going to be super vulnerable with you right now. Something that I struggle with this podcast is the video editing, you know?
There you go. You identified your weakness.
Exactly. That to me is just all these little things I have to go and watch the videos and then watch them back and back and back and then trying to do it. A lot of trial and error. And it just seems like, damn, I just wish I could just record and call it.
Yeah.
So
For me,
yeah.
it's geometry. I hate
Geometry.
geometry with a passion. And it's like, but I need to do this in order to do this and that. And it's like, so I had to put a lot more focus on geometry.
Yeah.
It was my only C in school.
Oh, well, now you're a Boeing, so it's cool, which is a lot more geometry than high school. So
Yeah. Stays behind there.
exactly. Shayla, I want to move on and discuss this topic. That is like many young professionals today prioritize a high starting salary over long-term career growth. Some sometimes shaping their future around immediate financial gains. So, with your experience at NASA and Boeing, do you see this as a concern? What's your perspective, and what advice would you give to those entering the workforce?
I actually do find that concerning and I do see it.
Mm.
And without fault, a few years later or even months later, you can tell the person being burnt out because they're not doing what they're passionate about. They feel burnt out. They don't feel like when you come into work, you're passionate about what you're doing. So it is not, you wake up every day, you're like, oh, let's go to work, or I'm going to accomplish this. But if it's something that you're doing for money, after a while it will become very draining.
Mm.
You have to do something like, I'm not saying for you to go to a low paid job and stuff, or a low paying job over the other, but you have to kind of, again, it's a balance, right? What are you going to gain from the job versus the pay? Because, like, for example, my first job in university, it was going to give me a lot of experience, but the pay was very, very bad. But it was in the school, so I didn't have to drive anywhere.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like, what are you trying to get out of that job? If it's just money, you're gonna get there. But I think it's more important for you to build yourself towards that big goal that I was talking about earlier. It's like, okay, is this job going to do that? Yes or no? And then kind of have like a flow chart.
Mhm.
It's like an
Yeah,
engineering thing, but it's like, is this gonna give you what you want? Yes or no? And then take this path and now that path. But I feel like it's going to cost you that, doing this, you're getting the pay, but it's gonna have a consequence on yourself that is not positive.
absolutely. I totally agree, especially because now I see it more real than ever. Interviewing for jobs, um, thankfully landing offers, and all of these questions arise like, do I actually see myself enjoying going to work day in and day out? Is this something, is an industry that I like to learn about? Is this a company that I see myself being in the long run? Is this a role that I see myself enjoying working on it? You know? So all those questions are often easier asked than like analyzed at the moment, just because first thing you see is how much you're offering me. How much you're offering me? What can I buy? How many days do I have to work? How many days do I have PTO? And it's like those things are there for you to evaluate, yes. However,
It's like a market reference. That's what we call it in our world.
yes.
And I want to add to that. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No, of
interrupt you.
course.
You have to take in consideration the pay, but also everything else that it's being offered.
Mm-hmm.
Again, besides the learning experience and the pay, it's like, is that company going to offer you for doing your master's and your
Mm-hmm.
PhD, which, for example, our work, my work, we do.
Mm-hmm.
So, do the other companies are gonna invest in your future career?
Right.
Because it's like, you a master's right now and nowadays it's very expensive.
Very.
So take that into consideration, and also on the under your retirement, how much 401k and how much PTO. Some companies offer, very little compared to others. It's like, it's again, you have to see what's going to work for you and what's important to you. What do you want out of your future, and take all of that in consideration besides just the pay. I think it's a bad idea to just concentrate in the pay. You have to look at the whole
Absolutely.
picture.
Absolutely. And I want to say like there's something that I've discussed with my girlfriend a lot. Just 'cause she just started her full time role in a company that she really loves. You know, so
Lucky.
yeah, and she had this. I'm sure you will meet her one day, but she is just one of those people that everyone just loves her wherever she goes because she's very determined as well. So she had two offers from two competitors in the same industry. And it was one of those industries that if you take the offer, even if you say yes and you're not going to take it later, just because you said yes, you cannot go to your competitor for over a year. So she had to really think about it and be like, even though they're offering me a little bit more money, this like companies a company that's giving me all of those stuff, a
Mhm.
good retirement plan. It's a company that the type of people that work there are my type of people when it comes to working styles. And now I see herself now I see her enjoying going to work every single day. And that just made me think this is also what I want, looking for jobs, looking for that type of sentiment when I go into the office every single day. So, yes, guys, definitely keep that in mind
You're going to be at work every day
every
for
day.
a lot of years. So might as well be something that you really love, you know?
Exactly. Sheila, I do want to move into this part of the interview, which is going to be in Spanish. So the
Switching
reason,
gears.
switching gears, the reason why it's in Spanish, and if you don't speak in Spanish, then I'm sorry. But I do every interview in English, so might as well just take the fall on this one. Uh, the reason why I want to do this Spanish is because your story is something that I want to share with my parents. My parents to me are really important. They're the fuel for everything that I do. I measure my success on how am I going to help my parents in the future. This is really going to be a substantial contribution to their happiness and to their peace of mind. So um, the question is, and
Hello, parents.
es para que mis papás también lo entiendan y para que mi papá, sobre todo porque mi papá es súper aficionado a la NASA, al
Ah,
espacio, y cuando le comenté que ibas a venir, pues se puso súper contento.
a ver cuándo lo conozco, pues,
Sí.
para darle el tour y el trabajo.
La pregunta es, Sheila, es cómo las experiencias, sacrificios y valores de tus padres dieron forma a tu carácter y te inspiraron a soñar en grande y perseverar en tu camino profesional.
Ay, what a loaded question. O sea, es muy fuerte esa pregunta, pero
Sí.
muy buena. Y te lo digo porque yo todo lo que he hecho hasta ahora es para hacerlos orgullosos. Hacer orgulloso a mis padres, hacer orgulloso a mi familia, hacer orgulloso a todo mi país y pues a toda la gente en general, pero ellos pues primero. Una de las cosas que yo me traté de independizar desde el muy chica, porque lo que más odiaba en las mañanas era ver a mis padres levantarse a las 4 o 5 de la mañana, ir a trabajarse todos los días y es muy difícil como hija tener que ver todo eso. O sea, somos 6 hermanos,
Claro.
una familia muy grande. Y desde niño pues no tuvimos muchos recursos y todas esas cosas, entonces era como muy, era muy, es que no voy a empezar a llorar, pero fue muy fuerte pues ver a mis padres sufrir ah, y ver que no tenían como muchas ganancias después de todo el tiempo, todo el esfuerzo que ellos hacían, pero ya sabes, no era como muy fruitful,
Ujú.
no daba. Éramos, todos nosotros teníamos sueños muy grandes y ellos sabían eso. Entonces ellos trataron de hacer lo mejor para nosotros para que nosotros no tuviéramos esas necesidades que estábamos pasando cuando estábamos niños. Entonces querían un mejor futuro para nosotros. Entonces yo desde niña he estado viendo cuando mi papá se esforzaba, ya sabes, trabajando y creo que eso me dio un buen ejemplo para mí de ver el gran empeño, el esfuerzo, la disciplina, la perseverancia, y yo sé cuánto ellos quieren eso para nosotros.
Ujú.
Y pues darle esto a ellos, o sea, para honrarlos a ellos definitivamente. Em, pero sí, siempre me dicen a mí que es fácil hablar de tu posición porque vos seguro vienes de dinero o seguro tenías visa para venir a los Estados Unidos. Yo no tenía nada de eso, ni siquiera visa. Es más, yo me río porque la embajada de Estados Unidos en Nicaragua me invitó el año pasado y le digo, ajá, después de que me negaron la visa 3 veces, aquí estoy, mi invitada.
¡Qué logro! Uy, es que 3 veces.
3 veces nos la negaron. Y yo estaba con mi hermanito y mi papá, o sea, y yo al ver a mi papá, yo sé, o sea, yo estaba lo suficientemente, eh, no era adulta ni nada, era niña, pero yo estaba consciente de lo que esto le estaba haciendo a él, porque te están negando a potencialmente a un futuro para tus hijos, ya sabes, darle un futuro mejor. los sueños de ellos y todas esas cosas. Y nos negaron la visa cada vez que tratábamos, nos las negaron 3 veces.
Mm,
Y mi papá yo sentía que se estaba dando por vencido porque es muy caro también aplicar
claro.
estas visas.
Uf,
Y cuando ya sos de pocos recursos, pues este es como, es algo que tienes que, ya sabes, ahorrar para
claro.
llegar y cada vez eso fue eso. Era como un pedacito de él que daba cada vez que nos decían no
Mm,
para esta visa. Pero Dios siempre sabe lo que hace. Y mira que después de eso, mi mamá se abrió una oportunidad en los Estados Unidos para enfermeras, y mi mamá es una enfermera. Y necesitaban enfermeras de todas partes, no importaba dónde. Entonces mi mamá aplicó y le dieron el trabajo y así fue que se logró venir ella primero a California, en Los Ángeles estaba trabajando. Y de ahí se abrió una ley
mm,
que solo se abrió, sin mentirte, por 3 meses. Y la ley era que si tú eres residente o tenías visa en los Estados Unidos, eras de descendencia nicaragüense y tenías hijos menores de 18 años, podías traerlos.
¿de verdad?
Esa era la ley. Y después yo me acuerdo estaba en la escuela y mis hermanos me llegaron a sacar y me dice, tenemos que ir a sacarte tu pasaporte y todas estas cosas. Y yo, ¿qué está pasando? Si yo estaba, sí, era una niña y que te
Claro.
lleguen a sacar y me dice mi mamá, te tienes que venir, hija, ya. O sea, y en una semana así cambió mi vida.
No te lo puedo creer. Y solo fue una ley que estuvo, no,
3 meses estuvo
3 meses.
vigente y después la cancelaron. O sea, si yo no hubiera venido en esos 3, si se hubiera lenteado, mi mamá ya sabía que había una posibilidad de eso, entonces
Sí.
dijo, traerlos ya.
Uy, es que eso, la verdad que no tiene explicación. Eso es puro Dios.
Puro Dios.
Qué locura. Y algo que me interesó mucho al leer tu historia es que tu inspiración y tu inspiración para esa misión de ser astronauta también viene de tu padre, que él estuvo en la Fuerza Aérea
Así es.
Nicaragüense,
Sí.
¿cierto?
Mi primer memoria que dicen, yo no sé cómo te acuerdas de eso, es el olor del helicóptero donde él trabajaba. Y ellos me dicen, vos tenías como 3, 4 años, ¿cómo te acuerdas de eso? Pero yo me acuerdo, el olor y el impacto de que yo me estaba montando desde el helicóptero y mi papá tenía su uniforme de militar y yo, oh, papito, que no sé qué, yo andaba en su hombro todo chiquito y o sea, hay una foto de mí de bebé con
Sí.
él. Sí.
Uf,
Y mi
qué
papá me dice, no sé
locura.
cómo te acuerdas, pero yo me acuerdo.
No, pues sí, me imagino el orgullo que él debe de sentir verte ahora, pues cumpliendo tus sueños y pues siendo todo lo que dijiste que tú querías hacer, siéndolo ahora.
Casi.
Casi, porque astronauta. ¿Cuánto nos faltó para astronauta, Sheila?
Ay, es que siento siempre que tengo que estar más preparada y más preparada y más preparada. Em, pero ahorita, por ejemplo, estoy preparándome en el ámbito de pilotar aviones. Estoy
Sí,
sacando mis clases para mi licencia privada. Pero las aplicaciones para astronautas no están abiertas todo el tiempo. Vienen cada ciertos años.
ok.
Entonces, espero aplicar para la próxima vez que se abran y esperemos en Dios.
Uy, es que astronauta no es cualquier bobada.
Y es por eso que siento que tengo que prepararme así, 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 así.
Sí,
Tengo muchas cosas, pero también tengo una trayectoria ya de 17 años de trabajando en aviones, ahora en cosas espaciales. Entonces, siento que pues tengo esperemos en Dios, tengo lo necesario para hacer el trabajo de las misiones y lo que sea bueno, las próximas misiones que son ahorita para regresar a la Luna y eventualmente a Marte.
no, es que como te dije la primera vez que hablamos, yo sé que en algún momento voy a prender el televisor y vas a estar tú así, chao.
Bye, Earth.
Exacto.
Sí,
Y yo estoy totalmente seguro de eso, porque es que ese tipo de personas como tú eres, así de determinada, con esa visión, con esa disciplina, sobre todo la disciplina, es demasiado importante y esos son los factores que cuentan con, con el éxito. Y yo siento que algo que tú mencionaste es algo que yo también siento, como yo siempre le digo a mis amigos y a mi novia, digo, o sea, no veo la hora de graduarme y empezar a trabajar para como poder, como de verdad ayudarle a mis papás. Como, o sea, como, como de verdad, ¿sí?
así es.
Entonces, pues es algo que yo, o sea, me emociona mucho.
Sí, siempre tratamos de dar ese pensamiento, ¿verdad? Que, o sea, que ya no quiero gracias a mi mamá, ya no está trabajando, ya está retirada y ella se puede tomar, cuando viene a los estados solo viene por 6 meses porque los otros 6 meses que hace frío no viene.
Claro.
Entonces, como somos 6, ella se queda un mes en cada.
Sí, no. Y es que son 6, ¿no?
Somos seis,
Es harto.
6 meses completito.
No, y es que entre el invierno de Houston y la playa en Nicaragua, yo también voy para Nicaragua.
Exacto, no la culpo.
Sí. Pero sí, yo siento que a veces pongo a pensar y esto que yo hago, y yo siempre digo como en las entrevistas y a la gente, a mí me encanta aprender mediante conversaciones con la gente. Y yo siento que eso es algo que le heredé a mi papá, ¿sabes? Porque mi papá, ellos tienen como sus restaurantes allá en Bogotá, que te dije comida mar, y mi papá es de esos que va y sale de la cocina y se sienta en las mesas y habla con los clientes.
Ah,
Y él siempre, porque nos llevaba a trabajar los fines de semana allá, entonces estuve como un tiempito en el bar, estuve un tiempito como haciendo Yo soy muy bobo para cocinar. Para cocinar soy muy tonto. Pero sí, pero digamos, estuve también mucho tiempo haciendo como de mesero y eso sí como que me gustaba más que el otro. Y cuando llegué acá a Houston también fue a ser mesero y todo lo que yo hago siempre es como tratar de emplear conversación y emplear, hablar con la gente y me gusta charlar y me gusta conocer las historias, aprender de los errores de las otras personas y de los éxitos de las otras personas. Entonces siento que eso es algo que yo me acuerdo mucho y es algo que mi papá, que yo le heredé a mi papá, que yo de verdad le agradezco
te
mucho,
inculcó
mucho.
esa, sí, porque no ves mucho eso. Ves a
Ujú.
los, ya sabes, las personas a los dueños conversando con los. Eso me parece muy lindo.
Sí, pero pues Sheila, te agradezco muchísimo por haber venido a Reach Out Podcast, de verdad que como te dije al principio, este es un episodio bastante especial. Eh, voy a hacer la exit in English just for my for my listeners. So, oh well, I forgot to ask you the last question, which is, what makes you happy?
That's a loaded question
Yeah.
too. So like I was telling you earlier when we were talking, so I was mentioning to him that my birthday is next week. And I always tell him that my escape is to go to Nicaragua. Like in Nicaragua is where I truly feel like I can just
Mhm.
relax, be myself, and just truly enjoy like me sitting in front of the beach, in front of the sunset. I think that's just like with my dogs. Of course, I did not mention I love dogs.
I love dogs
I
too.
have dogs here, over there. It's like I cannot be without dogs. So I try to take them to the beach with me as well too. But I think for me, being at peace
Mhm.
makes me happy. I something that I've had to learn the hard way. But I think that being in front of in my country in the beach, just watching the sunset, that's when I feel like the most like I can
Mhm.
just completely just in I don't know, like a bliss.
Yes, I love that, and I am so happy that like you feel that because, especially what we were mentioning before the cameras were on, is like for those high stress level jobs, that is so necessary.
You have to find yourself that grounds like something that grounds you.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. I feel like right now, what makes me happy is the fact that I'm about to graduate really soon. So I'm making all of those plans as well. And the fact that I get to see my parents really soon. You know, they're going to be coming in at the end of April. So you're going to
Nice.
be able to meet them when they're
Of course.
here.
If you
And
invite me, I'll come to your graduation.
absolutely, I already tell you. and and yeah. So again, thank you very much, Shayla, for coming
Thank you.
here.
Thank you
Do
so
you
much
have
for the invitation.
any other last words for our viewers?
I just have to say, since this is how to build skills and all that, just to close with that, it's like um, always put that little of you in those resumes. You see a lot of examples. You try to copy other people's who were got the job. Like, don't try to do that.
Mm.
It's like it's okay to focus on the job that you're looking, but just make sure that you put from yourself into everything that you do and everything that in your resume. Um, and if you need help, also, I'm. This is something that is my goal for this year, next year, so try to um, start helping more people, especially the Spanish speaking people. I
Mhm.
feel that there's not a lot of help on how to like build their resumes and informational interviews that I've been trying to schedule a lot. So reach out to me if you have like if you want somebody in the industry that can help you like walk through the questions, walk through what kind of scenarios. We do a lot of like the STAR scenario, like
Right.
the situation, task, action, results. So I can help you do with the best I can because I really want to do and help you. So just reach out if you need anything.
Absolutely. Do you think the best way of reaching you would be LinkedIn for all of our listeners?
LinkedIn and probably, yeah, I think LinkedIn and my Instagram, I would say, is the two things I check the
Lovely.
most. Yeah.
So
Because in my
you,
Instagram, I do a lot of educational stuff too.
lovely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely will be sure to link that in the description below of this video. If you guys are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, which means not video, please make sure to go to my LinkedIn or Instagram or just YouTube. They're gonna be there. And yeah, please take advantage of these resources that Shayla is employing and offering to you guys right now because not like there's never enough help that you can receive.
Absolutely.
You know, so best believe I will be reaching out for information.
Of course, I'm here to help.
I love that. So,
It's my pleasure.
guys, again, never forget to reach out. It's not about what it's not about the things you can get from people, but it's about building meaningful relationships. So, with that said, thank you again, and see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.